You did everything right. More prepared, more precise, more professional than anyone in the room. And you still got passed over. That is not a one-time thing. That is a pattern, and patterns have rules. There is a set of rules operating underneath the visible ones. They don't appear in your offer letter. They don't come up during onboarding. Nobody writes them down, nobody teaches them. But they are the ones that actually decide who rises. You have felt these rules for years. That formless dread before a Monday morning. The way a room can make you invisible without saying a word. You have felt the edges of these rules every time you got passed over. Every time you watched someone less prepared walk into an opportunity you built. By the end of this, you will be able to name every single one of them. And once you name them, you will not be able to unsee them. You are 35. You are excellent at your job. You are also quietly exhausted in a way you cannot explain to anyone outside of work. You arrive early, you stay late. You over-prepare every deliverable because you have learned to expect your work to be questioned. You reread every email before you send it, not for grammar, for tone. You scan it for anything that could read as too direct, too emotional, too much. You hit send, and then you wait. Not for a response, for a reaction. In meetings, you rehearse your points in advance. You still watch them land flat, or not land at all. 2 weeks later, a colleague raises the same point in a different room. He gets a nod, a follow-up email, and a slot on the next agenda. You have been tracking this for months. You are not imagining it. You have a mental file. You wake up tired, not sleep-deprived tired, tired in the way that comes from bracing, from calculating how you are being read before the day even starts, from managing your presence as carefully as your output, from being both the worker and the person watching how the worker is perceived. And then there is your colleague. Same level, similar tenure. Call her Lena. Lena is not sharper than you. She is easier. She laughs in hallways. She does not over-explain. She never seems to calculate. She never seems to brace. Last Tuesday, she booked a hair appointment mid-afternoon. She came back an hour and a half later, unhurried. By end of day, she had been named lead on a cross-functional project. Nobody commented on the timing. Nobody needed to. You do not hate Lena. You are confused by her. Why does one of you fight for every inch while the other floats? This is not a personality difference. This is a structural one. Something is operating underneath all of this, and it is time to name it. Here is the first hidden rule. Decisions about who rises are often made before any official process begins. In hallway conversations, in off-site dinners you were not invited to, in the 5 minutes after a meeting ends when you have already left the room. The pre-meeting meeting is where the real meeting happens. The formal vote is administrative. The outcome was decided before anyone sat down. Here is the second rule. Visibility and social ease are often valued more than output. But this is never said aloud because it cannot be said aloud. Culture fit is not a preference. It is a filter. And the filter was built by whoever was already in the room before you arrived. The language around it is always neutral. Great energy, easy to work with, really fits the team. These are not compliments. They are coded evaluations. They reward sameness. They punish precision, intensity, and sustained competence. Here is the third rule. Information is not distributed equally. Who is in the loop? Who gets CC'd? Who gets pulled into a conversation before it becomes official? This is how access is granted or withheld without anything being written down. You have been on the outside of those loops without knowing the loops existed, while the work kept flowing through you. Here is the part that changes how you see this. This is not a conspiracy. It is a climate. Nobody sat down and decided to exclude you. The system runs on defaults, and the defaults were not designed for someone like you. Nobody had to plan it. The architecture did it automatically. Here is the fourth rule. The meritocracy framing is the cover story. The system tells you, work harder, be more visible, perform better, and you will rise. This keeps you inside the machine. It keeps you producing. It makes every failure feel personal and self-generated. Because a worker who blames herself never examines the structure. That is not an accident. Now let's talk about what this does to you, not abstractly, to your actual nervous system. You have become a social forensics analyst without meaning to. You catalog tone shifts. You read silence for meaning. You track who got CC'd and who was left off. You replay conversations to find where something went wrong. This is not paranoia. This is adaptation. When an environment sends unclear and inconsistent signals, the nervous system learns to scan constantly. The exhaustion you feel is not just from the work. It is from the vigilance tax layered on top of the work, paid every day, never reimbursed, never acknowledged. You start adjusting yourself. You soften your tone. You add qualifiers before strong opinions. You open ideas with self-deprecating phrases to make them easier for the room to receive. Each adjustment feels rational in the moment. Cumulatively, they cost something you cannot fully name yet, but you feel it. You begin to wonder if you are too sensitive, too ambitious, too much. The environment has been running this lesson long enough that you have started to believe it. This is not weakness. This is what sustained exposure to a system that does not confirm your reality does to a person. It does not break you loudly. It makes you smaller, one calibration at a time. Then, Lena misses a deadline. Her manager sends a check-in. Warm tone, supportive framing, no consequence. Weeks earlier, you submitted a deliverable a few hours late due to an actual emergency. You received a performance note flagged in your annual review. Same rule, different enforcement. The rule was never the point. Who the rule protects is the point. You are not becoming difficult. You are becoming exhausted. There is an important difference, and the system depends on you not knowing the difference. A woman who thinks she is the problem keeps trying to fix herself. She never looks up long enough to see the board. Now look at the board. The system is not broken. It is functioning exactly as designed. Its purpose is to replicate the conditions that produced it, to protect whoever is already inside it, to maintain the dynamics that keep it running. HR is not a neutral party. HR manages risk to the institution. It is not there to adjudicate fairness. It is there to keep the organization legally and reputationally protected. Performance language is how they move people out of visibility without naming the real reason. Needs to work on executive presence. Sometimes comes across as too intense. Not quite ready yet. These are not honest evaluations. They are translations. Leadership opportunities, sponsorship, high-visibility projects, these flow through relationship channels, not competency channels. The women who don't have access to those channels are not failing to perform. They are failing to appear on the map, and the map was drawn before they walked in. The reason this survives: plausible deniability. No single decision looks unfair in isolation. The pattern only becomes visible when you step far enough back to see all of them at once. Most people never step back that far. The exhaustion prevents it. That is not a coincidence. Here is the complete reframe. It is not that the best worker gets promoted. The most legible worker gets promoted. The one who already looks like the template someone else designed. It is not that you need to work harder. You have already been working harder than anyone around you. That was never the variable. It is not that the system is hostile to you. The system is indifferent to you, which is, in many ways, harder to fight, because indifference has no face. It leaves no evidence. It just produces outcomes. It is not that the rules do not exist. They have always existed. They were just never written down for you. You were supposed to either fit instinctively or exhaust yourself trying to figure out why you did not. And the exhaustion was the mechanism. A person tired enough stops looking. A person who blames herself stops asking questions. The system stays intact. So here is what you actually need now. Not a new strategy, not a more optimistic mindset, not a personal brand or a better elevator pitch. You need to see the game clearly, all of it. The unofficial rules, the invisible channels, the language that sounds neutral but functions as a filter, the decisions that were made before you walked into the room. That clarity is not comfort. It is not motivation. It is a shift in vantage point. From inside the machine, everything feels personal. From outside it, you can finally see the board. And seeing the board is not a small thing. It is the thing. Now you stop calibrating yourself for a system that was never calibrating for you. Now you stop fixing yourself for a diagnosis that was never accurate. Now you see where the decisions are actually made. You see who the rules actually protect. You see what was always true. The rules were always there. Nobody taught them to you because nobody needed to. Now you see them. Play accordingly.